still contenders to go straight back into the Premier League. They were the bookies' pre-season favourites, but that was 2 months and 2 managers ago. Well, we'll speak to Steve Coppell and Stewart Houston, the new men. After all the other action from Division 1, Bolton Wanderers, the other relegated team, were the leaders going into the weekend. If Bolton Wanderers maintain their current home form, they'll be well on the way to promotion by the new year. Oldham was swept aside by a first-half performance, big on pace and ruthless finishing. Michael Johansson cashed in on a neat dummy by Nathan Blake. Then John McGinley came to life. The farce in Estonia meant McGinley missed out on a chance to impress for Scotland, but he took it out on Oldham. McGinley rounded off more cut-and-thrust approach play, and it was 3-0 to Bolton on the half-hour. Twice defender Jimmy Phillips tried to pick out McGinley. Jerry Taggart got there in the end, and McGinley's finish was delightful. "We were brilliant throughout," said Bolton boss Colin Todd. Graham Sharp was equally generous with his praise. At least his team did rather better in the second half, when substitute Mark Allers scored his first Oldham goal. For 24 hours, Norwich City were top. If Bolton were impressive, Mike Walker couldn't have asked for much more as Norwich dominated in the East Anglian derby. Between them, Robert Fleck and Andy Johnson cut right through the heart of the Ipswich defence. Johnson made it 2 on Friday night and 2 for Norwich when he headed in a deep free kick. Ipswich scored a fine goal of their own. Early in the second half, Danny Sunner volleyed in to briefly question Norwich's resolve. But Walker's side were rarely troubled again, and centre-back John Polston rounded off an excellent team performance with his first of the season. Referee David Allison won't be on Dave Bassett's Christmas card list. When George Endar headed in, Crystal Palace thought they had the lead. Instead, Mr. Allison called everyone back and disallowed the goal for pushing. In the second half, Barnsley got the benefits of another controversial decision. David Tuttle was penalised for fouling Andy Liddell. But Palace's young goalkeeper Chris Day was outstanding, and his reactions denied Neil Redfern the winner from the penalty spot. Tranmere Rovers stay in 4th place. John Aldridge had asked for an improved defensive display, and he got it. Sheffield United's pressure was frantic and non-stop for the final 20 minutes. But Dane Whitehouse was among the United players, unable to find a way through. After 2 defeats, Wolves were wobbling again at Southend United on Sunday. Mike Marsh screamed for the ball on the edge of the box and then put Southend in front via a deflection off Dean Richards. Wolves' second-half performance was an improvement, but there were just 17 minutes remaining when Mark Venus broke from the back and Steve Bull headed in his 6th of the season. But 1-1 won't have impressed Mark McGee that much. Huddersfield's Town players will see this as a win bonus wasted. The commentator is David Smith.
Jenkins now. Got a deflection. Still the possibility of the shot. Comes in now. Still not away. Huddersfield again. Burnett had the initial shot, which was beaten away. And then finally a great effort by Cowan. That is a magnificent goal by Huddersfield. 10 minutes into the second half, and Cowan has produced one of the goals of the season. Ashcroft. It's not connected, and there's the equaliser. And it is the 6th goal of the season. It was the perfect corner for Hunt, taken by Ashcroft, and the header delivered by Hunt. And it's West Brom 1, Huddersfield 1. Hunt, the goal scorer. Oh, a great interception. Snakers, unlucky. There's still the possibility. Ashcroft is in space. Can he finish it? Great save by Francis.
Stoke City hadn't won a Potteries derby for 3.5 years, but for much of the second half, this game appeared to be heading their way. Kevin Keane had come on as a substitute, And his header at the far post looped across Sheff Utd and in. But the super sub label belonged in the end to Port Vale's Lee Mills. Twice he'd missed easy chances, but 3 minutes into injury time, Mills was head and shoulders above Stoke's goalkeeper Mark Prudo, and Stoke's wait for that derby win goes on. For Swindon and Oxford fans, this game is as big as any they'll play all season, and their local derby didn't quite go to form. Swindon, without a league win in 4, ended Oxford's unbeaten run of 7 when Kevin Horlock headed in. Defeat in this one, and Trevor Francis might have been starting to wonder about the wisdom of going back to Birmingham. But his team were in charge right from the off. In 39 seconds, Paul Devlin had sprinted through to make it 1-0. Bradford City had Francis's ex-England teammate Chris Waddle on loan making his debut, but Waddle was always on the fringe. Devlin was centre stage. His second couldn't have been more confidently dispatched. Birmingham were well on the way to climbing the table. Francis has signed Derby striker Marco Gabbiadini on loan to maintain that momentum. Bradford's away form, though, is ominously poor. Jonathan Hunt's late deflected overhead kick summed up their afternoon. Reading's home form continues to undermine their hopes of rising up the table. They were in front when the Grimsby keeper Jason Pearcey hesitated and then fouled Trevor Morley. Pearcey might have been sent off earlier in the season. Even so, he couldn't stop Morley's penalty kick. But 7 minutes from the end, Grimsby put together their best move of the match. Clive Mendonca gave Darren Rack the room to run in, and the substitute couldn't have placed his shot better. 1-1. Charlton's neat attacking football is winning them critical praise, but not too many points. Alan Kirbishley's side controlled possession, but they had nobody to match the cutting edge provided by John Durnin. His stunning goal put Portsmouth in front 12 minutes from the end. And they made sure of their first win in 8 games with a smash-and-grab goal at the finish. Jimmy Carter made the most of the wide-open spaces. Lee Bradbury scored at the second attempt. Patience is a must for every Manchester City supporter. It's 20 years since the club won a trophy. It's just taken them 6 weeks to find a new manager. So when he finally emerged at Loftus Road, there was a large contingent and a booming welcome for Steve Coppell.
Well, I think the desire to be successful here is probably greater than at any other club, mainly because of what's going on the other side of the city. But just independently, everyone feels that it's a big club. Everything about it is Premiership, except the position in the league where they are at the moment.
But this was the start of a new era, and an afternoon made extra special by the appearance of Noel Gallagher, Oasis band leader, multi-millionaire, and Manchester City season ticket holder, whose own rise has been mirrored by the club's decline.
I just don't think we've got a very good team at the moment. I mean, I think some of the players just seem to be coasting, and the rest of the players seem to be a bit frightened of like playing in front of the fans. So I think it'll take another couple of seasons before we get out of this league yet. But as long as United don't win anything, who cares? At the end of the day, really. Isn't it, Griggs? Tell him.
Absolutely. What about Steve Coppell? What did you make of that?
We went down the dressing room to see him before. He looks a bit too young to be a City manager, but we'll soon sort that out up at Main Road. I mean,
far too healthy.
Yeah, he's too thin enough. He'll be fat and old by the end of the season. I guarantee you, Steve.
On the bench or in the executive box, Manchester City's start wasn't much good for the blood pressure. In attack they were positive, but wasteful. Clean through, Paul Dickov couldn't find a way past Jurgen Sommer. And Coppell soon had confirmation of City's big problem, defending. Goalkeeper Andy Dibble rushed from goal to correct some unconvincing work in front of him, only for Trevor Sinclair, Queen's Park Rangers transfer-listed striker, to steer in a brilliant goal, sure to impress any watching manager. Rangers' young side was swarming everywhere, and within 8 minutes they were 2 up. This time City's sweeper Eddie McGoldrick lost his footing, and teenager Paul Murray couldn't miss. New manager, same old story. But Coppell's honeymoon wasn't about to end prematurely. Within a minute, Steve Lomas popped up on the left, created some space for himself with a surprisingly deft turn, and there was fullback Ian Bricewell to thunder in a shot off the bar. And a decent fixture was turning into a very lively occasion that simmered with incident and boiled over at regular intervals. Andrew Impey and Lomas squared up and traded blows. Remarkably, they weren't sent off. But by the second half, City were rolling with the punches rather better. Coppell reverted to a flat back four. Georgi Kinkladze began to cast his spell in midfield to give the attack a real edge. Uwe Rossler was one of 3 players to hit the post or bar as Rangers retreated. Yet their new manager, Stewart Houston, was just 9 minutes away from his first victory when Nigel Clough's pass gave Kinkladze the chance to inflict some damage. The Georgian tricked and teased and picked his moment, and only Impey's hand could stop him scoring. This time Impey was sent off, and this time Rangers weren't spared. It was entirely appropriate that Kinkladze should score the equaliser. A point was the least his performance deserved. And accustomed as they are to full storms, on this evidence, City fans can be reasonably confident. More of the same, and Noel Gallagher might even consider a place on the main road board. They'd love to have him.
You know, everyone's on the toes, everyone tries that little bit harder. They've had sort of 6 weeks without a manager, and things just tend to drift a little bit. So, you know, with somebody just there, I think an impact would have been made. But the response of the players all week in training has been first rate, and here in the 90 minutes today has perhaps been more than I could have expected.
Everybody's talking about who we're going to buy, but you know, we're not at the moment in time in a position to say that we are doing anything on that. But we'll keep looking, and we'll get on with the job.
Still time. Do you still feel there is time to be in among the contenders?
Well, I look at the league position, and probably we're only halfway in the league or whatever. But it's a long season, and I think you have to believe that you can get a run together.
We talked to Noel Gallagher of Oasis, who was here before the game. He was a bit sceptical, I think, just about the way that City have been playing, as I think as most of the fans are. But at the end, he was smiling, he was happier.
Well, he came into the dressing room beforehand to see all the players, but unfortunately all the players were out on the pitch, so he never saw any of them. But it was great of him to come along. You know, obviously such a hero figure now, and to come along and to add his support, that was very pleasing.
He was smiling at the end, which not too many City fans have been doing away from home, I don't think, recently.
Well, long may it continue.
Manchester City's first draw of the season wasn't enough to stop them dropping 2 places. Portsmouth and Swindon go above them. Birmingham's win lifts them up 4 places. The bottom 3 were all beaten. The top 2 won, and there's now a 4-point gap between Norwich in second and third-placed Barnsley. Ipswich lost, but the other 9 teams in the top half were all involved in drawn matches.